The Freelance Writer, 1589 to 1594. Introduction. The young William Shakespeare probably arrived in London in the late 1850s. We do not know exactly when, however. After the birth of his twins in early 1585, no more is heard of him for 7 years. Some believe he spent these years as a school teacher, others that he traveled to Italy, although there is no real evidence of this. One theory is that he lived with a Catholic family in Lancashire, where he developed Catholic sympathies that he had to keep secret to avoid running foul of England's Protestant regime. Provincial upstart. All we can really be sure of is that he was living in London and writing plays by 1590 or so. We know this because he was clearly ruffling feathers among the university-educated literary dramatists used to ruling the roost in the capital until he came along. One of these dramatists was Robert Greene, 1558-92, who in 1592, as he lay dying in poverty, wrote bitterly in a pamphlet, "For there is an upstart crow, beautified with our feathers, that with his tiger's heart wrapped in a player's hide, suppose he is as well able to bombast out a blank verse as the best of you, and, in his own conceit, the only chic scene in a country." The phrase "tiger's heart wrapped in a player's hide" is a parody of a line from Henry VI, Part 3. So it seemed that by this point Shakespeare was already well known, yet still sufficiently new on the scene for Greene to call him an upstart. Exciting times. London in the late 1580s was an exciting time to be a playwright. It was the fastest growing city in Europe, a bustling metropolis rivaled in size only by Paris and Naples. It was a young city, most of the population was under the age of 30, and this theater scene was booming. Beyond the city walls and the lively, squalid city fringes, new theaters were beginning to attract large audiences. James Burbage had opened the theater in Shoreditch in 1576, and his rival Philip Henslowe had opened the Curtain Theater nearby in 1577. It is speculated that Shakespeare may have started his career with one of these companies as an actor, and he may have started writing plays soon after. His earlier surviving works, The Two Gentlemen of Verona and The Taming of the Shrew, date from about 1590. He may have even written for several companies at the same time. The Armada Effect. These were dangerous times too. The wounds caused by Henry VIII's break from Catholic Church were still raw, and Catholic sympathizers everywhere were constantly watched by government spies. In 1587, the long-imprisoned Catholic Mary, Queen of Scots, was executed after being implicated in a plot to kill her cousin, Queen Elizabeth I. In response, Philip II of Spain sent the 140-ship Armada, the greatest fleet that ever swam upon the sea. Philip, who had been married to Elizabeth's Catholic sister, Mary I, aimed to invade England, depose the heretical Elizabeth, and restore the Catholic faith. Remarkably, the smaller, more maneuverable English fleet, with the aid of tides and storms, routed the vast Armada. And although this was a crushing blow for Catholic hopes, there was probably hardly anyone in England, Protestant or Catholic, who did not feel a glow of pride at this unlikely triumph. It secured Elizabeth's reign and sent a wave of patriotic feeling throughout the country, which Shakespeare rode, writing so successfully about England's history over the following years with his raft of history plays. He made his mark quickly, and by 1592 already had half a dozen popular successes, including his first series of plays about the Wars of the Roses, the Henry VI plays, and Richard III and Titus Andronicus, playing and poetry. Then disaster struck. A major outbreak of plague ravaged London. To impede the spread of the epidemic, the theaters were closed from June 1592 to May 1594, and theater companies banished from the city. Some went on tour, but it is not known what Shakespeare did. He probably used this time to turn his hand to poetry. In April 1593, the great poem Venus and Adonis was published. It proved to be the biggest literary success of his life, far outselling any of his plays and going through many reprints. A second poem, The Rape of Lucrece, came out the following year. He may have also been writing plays, perhaps anticipating a hunger for entertainment with the reopening of the theaters. His next two works were comedies.